Call this workshop to order, and we'll go ahead and get started with item number 1, FY 26-27 budget. Tyler, if you want to go ahead and...
Sure. So I just handed you the most recent draft that we've prepared. There's not much that's changed since we had our budget workshop a couple weeks ago, and I put all the funds together in this one packet so you can look through that and see the different funds that we have and the different budgets that we're proposing. Like I said, there have been no significant changes since our workshop. I've adjusted the property tax revenue based on discussions with the county property appraiser's office. We have been given a preliminary certified tax rate, and that's not going to really change our numbers. It's just going to change the rate that we adopt when the budget comes forward. And all the expenditures, all those areas in the different departments, those have stayed generally the same with a few tweaks here and there. One thing I will note, the placeholder for the Hawkins County Emergency Communications District, that would actually be $113,000 and some change instead of $128,000. And again, that's a placeholder, so that doesn't commit us to sending that, but we need to budget for it in case we have to go down that road. We're still in negotiations and discussions with the ECD, determine how we go forward there. So all that said, if you've got questions about any specific department or item that you would like to bring up, now's the time to do that before we move into the first reading next Thursday, and we will hope to have the second reading in May, at the end of May. And it's been our tradition the past couple years, and we try to do that again to make sure the budget's passed early and on time, and that we're in compliance with all those requirements. So I'll entertain any questions or comments that you have about any of the departments or items in here. Otherwise, we will move forward with the draft as stated unless we hear comments from you otherwise.
Comments on the budget? I do have one question. We talked about budgeting for the public work, or I guess the police department public works, somewhere about the speed signs.
Yes.
Was that like a specific line item in here?
Yes, it is.
Public Works.
It's in Public Works, and it is, so that's page 10 of that first set of pages, and it'd be line item 342, sign parts and supplies.
Okay, that's one thing that I would, I guess when we get to that point where we're making motions to change or amend it, would like to, I don't see that being a need use of signs. I think there's some other equipment Jason might need more than that.
Okay.
And
So these are for the speed limit signs on Hammond
right.
and Independence?
Right,
Okay.
right. And that's just, enforcement's going to be your best deterrent for speeding versus those signs that people will just drive right by and see how they can light up. I think enforcement would be a much better solution for that versus the actual going that route. As far as the only other question I had, but I think I might have already answered it. Do we still have originally the placeholder for some cameras for the police department? Is that still in here?
Yes, it is.
What line item is that?
It is Police Department, page 6, and page 7, the top, other contractual services, number 290,
Okay.
and that is the $20,000 budgeted for the
For
flock.
cameras, right? Yeah,
Yes.
that to me is another one that not that I don't care to get the police department to supply or what they need. It's just I'm not a fan of the flock cameras of that.
Yours is all messed up.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I'll
Much
switch it.
deeper than probably won't go into tonight, but that would be my two things that I would.
What did he find it at?
Page 7, very top, 290.
290 under the police department. Cameras.
Okay.
page.
Yours is in order.
Yes, mine is in order. What was the other one that we were just
That
discussing?
was the signs on Public
The
Works.
signs, that was on,
342, I believe, was the line item number.
And what page was that on?
10. Page 10, 342, sign parts and supplies.
I don't know where I got page 10 in that one.
That one. And then we have the ECD placement.
if we budget for the ECD and then that ends, so there's a possibility we'll have our budget passed prior to
ECD.
that actually being resolved. Is there, at that point, would just be something that if we don't have to go that route, would we, and that's even, I guess, a more of a question we need to look into is when is that paid? Is it paid at the beginning of the year in a full lump sum? Is that paid quarterly? Is it paid?
There's an interlocal agreement that they placed in front of me. With some, there's quarterly payments, with some, there's monthly payments. I was going to bring that to the
Okay.
board when we get to
Don't have
it.
it.
I'm not ready to sign
Yeah,
off
it's
on
a-
any of this, because
I'll
I'm
find
still of the opinion
Right.
that this needs to come from somewhere else and needs to be done in a different way. I am speaking with the other municipalities and the county. So I had several calls while I was out of town last week. We're gonna be setting up a meeting to have a conversation about that and see where we're going. What I recommended, because each of us have met independently with the ECD, that doesn't solve the problem. And the answer is, if I negotiate something really good, it's gonna impact the others really bad. And that's why there has to be a singular voice for everybody coming together and having this conversation once, instead of Churchill goes and Burgoynesville goes and the county goes and I go and we all have something different. And then there's no continuity or a sense of it all. So
I have, and
the
I,
deadline is June 30 though. We have to have something in place by June 30. So that's why we're addressing it through budget. Remember, a budget is a plan, and if we earmark that money, it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to spend it or we even have the revenue for it. So I say that with caution, but I don't think having a placeholder hurts us. And I explained that to the ECD when I went and met with them, that, you know, just because there's a placeholder doesn't mean that this is a done deal, just so you understand. So I hope I answered your question.
you did. I figured that'd be something that we could look at, either amending with a budget amendment or we just let it fall off if the revenues, depending on what that looks like. But yeah, that did, and I appreciate the work you've been doing on that. Other questions about the budget?
Not a question so much, but you've got OSHA and, I don't know how you pronounce it, WASI,
Where are you at?
throughout. In some
Okay.
places, it's all capitalized, in other places, it's not. We
Okay.
just need to bring that up. And then, this is page 1, but it's,
OSHA and OASI are two different things.
right, but they should all be capitalized or not capitalized. In some places, they're capitalized and
Okay.
not.
That's
I
part of
got
the
you.
formatting.
Yeah, it's just, yeah.
I got you. Anything substantive to the numbers in the budget, that kind of thing that y'all are looking for.
Two things were the only things that I really had that stood out. I do know one, just as since it was a new item, I know it's not a very large budget item, but I did do just a little bit of digging on the Imagination Library funds that was requested, and at their proposed, their donation request of $1,000, what that would translate to in return would be essentially 1,000 books. So $12 gets one child a year worth of books. So you translate it to $1 a book. So that we're looking at a small nominal donation for them for what they do for the community, and for the kids of the community. So I just wanted to follow up with that about what we would actually see out of it.
It's on page 4.
Page 4, 728 is the line item.
Thank you.
Any other questions on the budget?
Consensus on those 2 items.
So the things you brought up, I would like to kind of get a feel from what the board wants, because that way we don't have to try and edit this on the fly at the meeting. So obviously you can't take official action, but I would like to get a feel from the board on support for your position or support for the item to remain. It's certainly your purview and your right to have an opinion on this. And I'd like to kind of get a feel from all of you on what your thoughts are about the things that were proposed.
I don't know much about flock cameras, so I'd have to get a better understanding of.
So I've asked the chief to be here tonight because so flock cameras generally can be very divisive. And the reason I say that is there's people out there that feel that it's a police state and it's a surveillance state and all those other things, but there is probably no better investigative tool to solve crimes and make a real impact in like a real crime center, a real-time crime center. So I'll let the police chief kind of give you the details, but that's the generic process. Most of the folks that are unhappy about it feel that it's government overreach or things like that. The other thing that's been very popular is, you know, the sharing of it with federal law enforcement and that kind of thing. That's not happening, but I'll let the chief speak to that. So,
well, there's obviously a lot of misconceptions. I mean, if you have questions off the top of your head now, you can go ahead and answer them, or I can just tell you a little bit about them, and then if you have questions. But it comes from license plate readers. The technology does. I don't know if you remember. I know Jim, we were talking about it. Some police cars would have the white bumps on the hoods of their cars, and they could read license plates. That's where the technology came from. But license plate, the flock cameras are just a point in time. It takes a picture. There's no video, no video or anything. It's just a point in time for that specific date and time. It doesn't take pictures of the front of the vehicle, so there's no pictures of whoever's driving it. It only takes pictures of the back of the vehicle, and it's a license plate. So originally when it was started, it was for missing people, and then if a crime has been entered into the system that vehicle is related to the license plate, then an alert will be given to us or whoever the organization is. Right now there's over 6,000 organizations that have them in every state except Alaska. In this area, just about everyone except Hawkins County SO has. So I mean, if you go west or south, you're getting hit. But like I said, it's only the license plate. It's giving you a license plate, and then it's up to law enforcement to do the investigative job of determining who is driving the vehicle.
So where are you guys wanting to put them at? Like, how many are you asking for, and where are you wanting to?
4, 5.
4, 5.
Yeah, on the 11W, Cars Valley, possibly Independence.
So one of the things I'll say is that is kind of a op security thing for strategy,
Yeah.
and I know you know what I mean because you were in the military. So we don't generally put that out there, and I know that's controversial as well, but it's not a great idea to warn criminals, well, this is a corridor and this is a corridor, so you know, stay off of those roads. So I caution the question, you're going to get a generic answer for OPSEC.
Yeah. So I would just, the big takeaways are, it's not tracking people, because it doesn't take a photo of anybody, just the license plate. It's maintained for 30 days, then deleted out of the system. The only reason it's maintained for 30 days is so that law enforcement has that time for investigative purposes, if they need to go in it. If we don't go in it, it's deleted. If we go in it and find what we want, it's still deleted. So then we have to go, you know, do a subpoena process or something to get that information. Flock doesn't, the company doesn't share information with the federal government, they don't share information with anybody. It's totally our choice who we share with. So, I mean, hypothetically, if Kingsport called up, because they have cameras also, if they called up and said, hey, can you do this, and for whatever reason we don't want to do it, we don't have to do it. We don't have to share with the federal government, it's totally on us who we share it with. It's been tried a couple times in district courts. It's been found to never violate the Fourth Amendment at all. And I think if you got questions, let me know.
Is it basically set up like the speed cameras that we have on 11W?
Well, they're very small and they're solar operated. The cameras are small. If you look down here when you're coming from Kingsport, there's one coming into Mount Carmel, right down there by University. If you don't know what they look like, the odds are you pay zero attention to them. Once, I mean, you can't even go into Warrior State Park without having it, because they have them in the park. Like I said, Sullivan County has a ton of them. Kingsport has 10 or 11. Johnson City's all in on all the clocks.
Do me a favor, if you got copies for them, go ahead and hand it out to them, let them.
I can make copies.
Yeah, we can do that.
But it's, like I said, it's originally missing people and crimes related that they enter on it good for 30 days, but you can change whatever you can. California passed legislation where they don't share their information. They use them, but they don't share the information with the federal government or out-of-state agencies unless you make a request and they determine on a case-specific basis. Virginia did the same thing. They don't share with outside agencies unless you contact them and it's case-specific. They also narrowed it from 30 days to 21 days before it's all deleted.
Dave, who takes care of these for us, making sure they're accurate?
We don't buy them, we rent them. So
What's that cost?
it's $3,000 per camera.
Roughly.
Per camera?
Yeah.
And it costs initially to buy poles and such like that. That's why the amount is 20.
It's about $700
Yeah.
for one to be installed
Yeah.
one time.
And then,
You gave 2 locations, I missed 2 when I got my hearing aids in. So where was the 11W and Independence, what was the other 2?
We're not giving specifics,
Not-
Alderman Gilliam.
it's just around on the main thoroughfares.
Okay.
Um,
Well, you know, I mean, it's not so secret.
It's no secret, everybody can go around and look for them and things like that, but we don't generally volunteer that because
Well, I'm
it's
not
an
gonna
operational
volunteer it
security.
either. I think I
It's
got
that-
about to ask
it's
him where
that-
they're
It's
going
that
to
that's
put
volunteering it right there, up in the air. That
Mhm.
camera right there, we're live recording right now. It's that. You can talk to them after the meeting and he'll gladly tell you where they're at. It's just we're not trying to publicly put them out. Because
Correct.
we're on live on
Well, that's, I'm
Facebook.
not.
The other thing I would add too
I mean-
is, as the administrator, I have oversight, kind of like the checks and balances on what the officers are looking up and how they're using it. Now we can't go in and make searches just to make searches. When we go in, if we want to search for a license plate or a vehicle description, you have to put in the purpose of your search, the crime that was committed, how it's related to that vehicle or that license plate. So you can't just go in there and, it's not like a browser where you can just browse cars going through there. You have to be very specific. Their system and servers have never been hacked. But I got copies here of kind of a couple of fact sheets that I'll make copies for, and I'll hand them out to you.
Okay.
There's really not a downside. It's a phenomenal investigative tool where we can go in and, you know, we can't put a person, because it's a vehicle, we can't put a person in a specific location. That's when we have to do the investigating and figure out who was driving that vehicle. But it gives us a good lead. And I was telling these guys earlier, over here on Kingwood the end of February, we had a guy almost beat his girlfriend or wife, almost to death. Then they fled down to Johnson City and thought they were gonna hide in a hotel. Well, we called Johnson City and within 20 minutes they called back and they had the vehicle. Now they said, they have the vehicle, this is where it's at. We don't know how it got there or who drove it. But I mean, if you have the vehicle, that gives you a good starting point. So then obviously, we went down with Johnson City, did the legwork with, subpoenas to the hotel, getting their information of who checked in between this time and this time, and we determined it was actually the suspect. And we worked with Johnson City and we arrested him. So I mean, there's zero downside to these cameras.
That $3,000 set, per camera?
Yes, sir.
And that's an annual amount.
Yeah, it's reoccurring.
I can
If
see
you
it
have-
stayed.
If you have questions,
I
you
like
can
to
always.
stay in the budget.
Can you speak to the maintenance part, if there's damage or anything, how they come in and,
Yeah, they'll come in and fix, replace, whatever they need to do. It's kind of like our body cams. We pay X number of dollars to lease the body cams. If anything happens to them, we flip them out and get a new one. Same thing with the flat cameras. If they get run over or stolen, damaged, they just replace them.
So the consensus of the board is to leave them or take them out?
I think they're a great tool. And considering that Tennessee has, it's like in the top 10 for trafficking people, I think it's a great tool to have.
Well, I forgot to add too though, so once you're in the game, in the system, as long as, because like I said, Kingsport, so everyone out here has them except Hawkins. So now they determine who they're, I mean, I can call them up and they might say, no, we're not sharing with you. Very slim chance. I mean, we called Johnson City up. We didn't even ask them to use the flat cameras, but they went straight to it. So I mean, we'll have basically access to not just ours, but Sullivan County, Kingsport, Johnson City, Washington County, Unicoi, Greene County, Hamlin, Granger, all of them. And literally outside of California and Virginia, and we can probably get that if we need it.
I am in agreement with taking these stuff from Public Works with the signs out.
Okay,
That's my opinion on that.
but I have a consensus that you all want to leave the flock in place for the budget process.
Yeah.
Okay. As far as the traffic signs for Public Works, the video game, what's the max speed I can hit on this type of thing? And I agree with what the mayor said, from the police chief and I discussing it. That is exactly what happens. People want to make it blink out and see how high I can get the number to go. So, I don't know that it serves the purpose that we think it would as a passive device, so.
So, I apologize, I missed the budget workshop, but it's at the lights that shows how fast you're going?
Yes, it's
And
the
that is
sign,
going-
the digital sign that pops up and says your speed is,
Okay, was it gonna be permanent placed or just temporary placed?
they were gonna be placed on the main roads of Independence and Hammond, I believe.
Permanent?
Yes, permanent signs, not rolling signs.
We have two mobile ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right now that we can go around. Like the mayor said, it doesn't,
It's again.
I mean, enforcement's the only deterrent. I mean, you can
Yep.
put signs up and after they figure it out.
For the same money that we're spending on those signs that, like I said, essentially, I think we all are in agreement on that don't really serve a purpose. Jason talked about having them used for a balloon light, I believe is what he called it. It's what we use outside of the generator, the newer LED, one of those for about the same money as where we spend on that. He could get that equipment. If they have issues at night when it's dark, I feel like that's more practical from a safety standpoint than those signs would be practical from a safety standpoint.
Agreed. So is the consensus of the board that
Yeah.
we'll remove the signs and we'll seek an alternative with that, with Jason's recommendation?
Yep.
Okay.
do that?
Anything else?
Anything else you want to move on the budget, or are we ready to move on?
I'm ready to move.
Let's move on to item number 2, planning and zoning contract with First Tennessee Development District.
Okay, this is an annual contract that we received from First Tennessee Development to employ a planner to attend our planning commission and do those things. The cost is still the same as it was last year, which is $16,223 for the year. And we'll be bringing that to you as a recommendation for the mayor to approve and sign that contract. Just wanted to put that on your radar.
Is that in the budget?
Yes, it is.
What line item is that? What page is that?
Administration.
Yep, general government.
It is page 5, item 257.
Page 5, what number?
257.
257. All right, gotcha.
Any other questions on that one? Moving on to item number 3, Kingsport trash contract update.
So I negotiated with Kingsport. They're bringing the contract to their board next.
Tuesday.
Thank you. I didn't remember their meeting date. I was able to negotiate a 3-year contract to kind of put cost contain so we don't keep having these larger increases. So in year 1, it'll be the $250 that I talked about with you all in the beginning. And then each year thereafter, it'll be $1 per card increase. And it's all spelled out in the legislative memo that you'll get at the meeting in your packet. And the contract, the previous contract and this contract. So over the last 2 years, we didn't have increases before that, but over the last 2 years, we had a 13.5% increase and a 23% increase year over year. So I say all that to say, by doing a multi-year agreement, we lock in that price and we're not subject to that. Their rate increases are based on a rate study that was done for them. We're still paying less than they charge out of city or out of county residents their normal rates. It's still well below the survey that I did, and I'm providing that in the backup document as well, so you can ask questions of that between the statewide amount and the regional amount out on average. We still will be paying well below, even with the increases over a 3-year contract, of what the average is here today in the state and in the region. So I feel really good about the cost contained of this contract. And I'll answer any questions y'all may have.
Questions? I think we're good to move on then.
Thank you.
Move on to budget, item number 4, budget amendment for the fire department grant.
So I'll be bringing a budget amendment to you next week's meeting. The fire department obtained a grant from the state fire marshal's office, $47,370 to replace vehicle extrication tools. So we're proud of our fire chief and the work he did to get that grant. This is more of a formality to put it in the budget so that we can expend the money, go ahead and get that ordered. It will fall under this current year budget, so it'll be kind of a tight timeline to get that budget amendment in before the end of the year, but we'll get it done and move forward with that, and look forward to having that additional help from the fire marshal's office to help our fire department.
I'd say it's really a significant amount of money that Mitch has brought into the town through the fire department and different grants and things like that over the last few years, especially if we're successful in getting the block grant, this upcoming one as well. And it's just, I know, we made the decision to go full time with the fire chief, and I just think we're really seeing that pay off dividends with the amount of equipment and grant money and things like that he's able to do. And I think that's where you're seeing our fire department really start to stand out across the county wide about the level of service they provide, and I just commend him and the entire group of people over there.
Thank you for recognizing that. So that is something that you'll see in the budget document when we get done. And I talk about the amount of money that he's brought in over the last several years to this town, whereas we would have had to fund for the enhancements and improvements to the organization. So he definitely has maximized and leveraged the funding sources for us to be able to accomplish things that we may not have been able to accomplish. So thank you for recognizing that. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And one other thing just to add to that, and this is only the grants that we get awarded. I know of probably at least 3 more he's went through the process to apply for. Don't know if we'll get it or not, but it's just one of those. I know he's constantly, or all of our employees, constantly looking to try to find additional opportunities for us, and we appreciate that. Any other questions about the budget amendment for the fire department?
No.
Moving on then to item number 5, RFP for the town attorney municipal legal services.
You want to talk about it?
Sure, I'll start, you can fill in.
Okay.
At the budget work session that we had at the end of March, there was a consensus of the board to, as a best practice like we did with our auditor, to go out for proposals for our municipal legal services town attorney. We prepared that proposal to go out and send it out and publish that. And we had a discussion with our current town attorney about that, and he advised that we need to have formal action from the board rather than just an informal consensus at a workshop. So we will be bringing that item before you at the meeting to formally take action to seek that RFP for proposals for that service that we require. And that is due to the nature of the fact that the board appoints that in a contractual setting, so we want to make sure that we're in compliance with that. And either one of you can speak more to that.
Procedurally, because of the unique position of the town attorney reports directly to the board and the mayor, it's necessary that any deliberations, discussions of, in this case, setting out proposals, which was requests for proposals, I would probably suggest number 1 is that we change that to a request for qualifications. Proposals usually done for a engineering contract when you're talking about the strategy of how you're going to do something, the cost involved, the day-to-day interactions. Where a request for qualifications is generally done when you're looking for somebody that has a particular level of experience or knowledge. But in order to do it at all, and remember, any deliberations, discussions about retaining by the board of retaining legal counsel requires, under the Sunshine Law, requires to be in a public meeting. So what I would suggest, and what Tyler has agreed to, is that at the next board meeting, you could decide if somebody wishes to make a motion to that and it passes, then you can authorize Tyler to go ahead and submit request, I would say, for qualifications. Right? That's, again, remembering that if we do that and get it back, also there can't be just a committee that I believe black practice that says you all will have to be involved in the discussions with the applicants, because that also, these discussions that you have with the applicants are also subject to the Sunshine Law and Public Records Act.
So was it brought up at the workshop? Because I wasn't at the budget.
Was that the
Was
budget
it brought
workshop?
to seek out different, just to, like,
As a best business practice.
because this is the first year we've had to go out and
As a best business practice, it is a good idea to do RFPs for services to make sure that you're getting the best service. This is not a slight of the current legal folks, but that way it validates where we're at and what we're doing. And I'll use the auditor as an example. We've had the same auditor for 20 years. The problem with that is if you don't turn over an auditor periodically, you end up with blind spots, and that's problematic. So I say all that to say that's the reason, as I understand, no different than me working for you though, is all of you were involved in the hiring of me, but not all of you were involved in the interview process for the application process. So the RFP, I think, serves the purpose. I understand what you're saying about RFQ, but that is more focused on engineering and qualifications for building and such. It can be for technical services as well, like legal, but generally an RFP will meet that need. So you all can give me a consensus of what you want to do, but procedurally, the attorney has stated that he thinks it's out of order. So that's why we're having this conversation in the workshop, to bring it to you at the meeting to take official action.
And that's the important thing.
Right.
And best practices, it's the question of, I don't think it's a very good fit to a particular legal services, okay? There's a lot of other criteria that go into that. And as far as making sure you're getting something for your money, the cost cannot be included in any consideration you have of the professional services. So that's not the issue at all. The issue will boil down to, if you folks want to retain different legal counsel, then you have every right to do that. And you just need to do it properly, and that is to have a motion to instruct a city recorder to have a request for qualifications, who will then hopefully give you a list of people that are interested. And I would tell you that I believe that because, again, the auditor didn't reject the report to anybody on this board. You're obviously the end result and the ultimate decision maker, but the attorney does. So therefore, I think everybody on the board should be involved in the interviews. How else do you decide? Because it's very difficult, and a lot of the legal advice you get, the interactions you have, are nebulous. They're not very quantifiable as far as the amount of benefit you got from either or didn't get. So all I'm saying is, you need to do the procedure, make sure that you comply with the sunshine law regarding the solicitation of the qualifications, and that you, I think, also all get involved so you have hands-on when you have to make a decision regarding legal counsel.
Is it kind of like how we done the judge? We all, he called us and we all talked to him separate when we hired the new judge.
If that's the way you want to do it, but you got to remember, anytime more than one board member talks about or deliberates about this subject of retaining counsel, that's subject to sunshine law. So you got to be very careful. And my answer to that is, if you can do it individually, yes, you could supposedly do it, but that would stop you from saying what you discussed with him to somebody next to you.
Okay.
Yeah, because then it's a combined sunshine violation. So by having the entire board and mayor involved, you avoid that, and you do it publicly. I mean, I think the law is clear. The retention or dismissal or anything of employment of legal counsel is a matter that is subject to the sunshine law. So all we're saying is, it'll be on your agenda next week, and you can decide how you want to handle it at that time. Somebody would, like I said, make a motion or not make a motion, it passes or doesn't passes, and we go from there. So we're talking just procedurally, and the reason it's on tonight is just so you'll have notice that it's going to be on there on the agenda for the next meeting.
Come forward to you as a discussion and consideration. So.
Okay.
And just encourage everybody to maybe check out MTS's website and see, do some research on that, because I do think it's worth the due diligence of just making sure you're looking out for the taxpayer dollar, making sure we're getting the best services, making sure all of that, and it's more just a formality process. So like I said, it's nothing with that we're actively seeking a new attorney, just the same way we did with the audit. Just making sure that we're checking boxes, doing our due diligence. Anybody have any questions about that? Move us on into item number 6, building inspection, code enforcement, future actions.
So the last 2 or 3 weeks have been ridiculous with what we've dealt with the current vendor. So we're continuing to navigate that and evaluate, but I believe we're at a place where we're going to seek discussion and consideration on your part of moving in a different direction. And I say all that to say there's a process we have to go through in the contractual relationship we're in. We'll share all that with you at the meeting and in the supporting documents. But I think recommendation from staff will be to explore other opportunities and options, because we've had some difficulties. So the previous inspector we had made some unilateral decisions for the company without consult with the company, and in turn it created chaos here at City Hall. And I share that with you because we're getting 20 calls a day about permits and things like that. And that's not how it's supposed to be. So,
So would there be an ability, like, to reach out to the other municipalities like Churchill and Savorsville and see if we can come together and hire a city inspector that
we
can
can
work
have
between
that
the three?
conversation. I think that's a wonderful idea to leverage that. I don't know how willing our partners are in having that conversation, and I don't know how willing the candidates are in being responsible for that. There are other options out there besides the current contract that we have, and we've explored and researched. So I feel comfortable that we can come to a conclusion. But what Churchill or Savorsville needs may not be the same as what we need. And, we're gonna address some of those things in-house and bring some things under the police department, like the code enforcement stuff, but I still need a code enforcement official that can back the play of an officer doing a civil citation. And I need a building official that can back the play of my fire chief who's managing building and permits and things like that. So that's where I'm trying to go with this navigation of getting to a place where our residents aren't frustrated. And the last 3 weeks have been beautiful, so people are trying to get things done and seeking permits. And one guy couldn't get his permit submitted for 3 weeks because the inspector said, well, I'm not doing that anymore. You're not doing that anymore. We have a contractual agreement with you. So I reached out to the manager, and that got corrected. That guy no longer works there, but that didn't help the problem because now I don't have an inspector to be able to do that. So we're navigating all these things, and I say that to say they attempted to resolve it by giving me a permit tech who works remotely, and she was very helpful, and she helped navigate some of these things. And the inspector's boss, who is remote as well, was doing things that are submitted on the portal, but it's not the same as being able to have somebody come out and look at something and come out and talk to someone. So that's my big concern with how we've gotten into the corporate world with a contracted service, because one, the permit clerk couldn't believe the amount of activity in such a, because she said, how many people do you have in your town? And I said, about 5,500, 5,700, something like that. She goes, I got 15 calls this morning. I was like, well, that's how it works, because 91% of the people in this town own homes, and either they want to add to or do whatever work they want to do, and they're seeking a permit to do it the right way. And now we're throwing up roadblocks. That's not helpful. So that's where Tyler and I came from with trying to resolve this issue and make it a better experience for our residents, so they're not flustered and frustrated with the process. So we'll have a discussion and consideration item on the agenda, and there'll be supporting documents as well. So
We do have a solid Plan B that we're working on as an off-ramp to this. We would not entertain getting out of this arrangement if we didn't have something that we're working on to take its place. So that's still being ironed out, but we're
For
confident.
years, we had one guy done it all. We were so lucky to have him. We
Oh,
didn't
Vince was
realize,
amazing.
we didn't realize how lucky we was then.
And the other part is you never want to have one of something, because if you have one of something, you have nothing. Because if that person dies, leaves, whatever,
That's what happened.
you end up in a bad place.
And a lot
So,
of the paperwork he had, we don't know where it's at now.
yeah. So that's the concern that we have, building for resilience. So that's why we're exploring all options, and the off-ramp matters. So, any questions?
Any further discussion at all? One thing to add before we close, Tyler showed some pictures today of that new playground structure
Oh, yeah.
that's installed for the littlest kids up at the playground, and that's good work on that. Looks great.
Thank you.
I think it's just the continuation of what we're doing up there is really starting to take notice, and people are using it more and more. I can even hear the noise from across the street at my house of how many people are actually actively up there at the park all the time. And as this new weather continues, I'm sure we'll just continue to see that get used more. So I appreciate the work you did on that. Anybody else have anything before we close?
I
Can
got
I-
a question.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Are we issuing building permits?
Yes, we
Yes.
have been.
So if somebody wants to buy the Rocket Center, they're gonna be able to get a building permit, whatever they wanna do with it.
Well, it goes through a process, but the answer is yes, we have a building permit process.
Okay, that's all I need.
Yeah. If I can go back to budget for a moment, I was remiss because I meant to talk about something and I forgot completely. Police chief and I had a conversation, fire chief and I had a conversation. In the interest of the strategic plan direction that you all gave about the part-time and reserves and things like that, trying to enhance that program. Looking at the pay scale, the chief is doing some changes and things like that. I'm authorizing an increase to the reserve officers and the part-time firefighters' salaries, so everybody will be coming up to a different rate. It'll be spelled out in the budget for the future year, but we have enough in the budgets now to cover that personnel costs. And then the reserves it'll be easier for Chief Larson to be able to secure reserves because he made some changes and got some agreements from the county, but no officer's gonna come here and be a reserve officer for $16 an hour. And that's what it was.
Yep.
And that's been the way it's been for years. Same with the part-time firefighters. We have a good lot, but we're gonna be increasing that number of part-time firefighters. So the other part from my perspective is we want pay parity between the patrol officer level and the firefighter level. So I'm making it where there's pay parity between the two positions, a reserve officer and a part-time firefighter. So, and I just, in the interest of transparency, I want to share that with you all. I believe that's in my purview as your manager. It's within the budgeted dollars that exist today, and it will be part of the future budget that was presented to you. But I didn't want it to appear that it was a slip it in type of thing. I wanted you all to know what we were doing.
How many firefighters part-time usually on duty during the day?
Only one a day.
Okay.
Only one a day. And the truth is, the part-time firefighter is more like an officer position because they're making decisions, and every one of them is an officer in some other agency that currently work. We're going to be adding 3 additional in the coming budget year to address the weekend coverage that we talked about. So it'll definitely make it where we can recruit and retain those folks instead of them bugging out on us. So, and we got a good group. We got a good group on both sides.
Is it advantage for a firefighter from Kingsport come here work part-time? Does it help him hour-wise or something? Or
So it doesn't help him hour-wise, but it's a part-time job.
Yeah.
I mean, he can come here and earn a part-time pay and doing the same things that he did there.
Yeah.
We actually have some of those folks are
Yeah, I
from
know.
Kingsport, some of them are from Bristol. So we have those folks, but the answer is there's no benefit for them at Kingsport. We reap the benefit.
their days off and make money here?
Correct. And we get service from somebody that's experienced and capable.
Well, we don't have to pay for the trainer, trained already. trained.
Correct. They're doing training elsewhere and they're qualified from elsewhere and all, no different than the reserve officer.
Okay.
So we're getting a great benefit by having those reserve officers, those part-time firefighters. So
And Mitch picks him and
Mitch will be picking them. I will confirm them with him, but Mitch has made good judgment.
I didn't know that.
Good choices, so
I
I'm not
remember
there to be.
volunteer firefighter. I don't know, I didn't want to get confused from volunteer and.
It's completely different. The
Yeah.
volunteers are not compensated. The ones that are on a normal work schedule covering the daytime shift, they are part-time employees here.
Like the paramedics and stuff like that.
Yes, the ones that are EMS qualified as well. Yes,
So, budget proposal.
that is. I apologize for having to bring it back.
Absolutely.
Can I speak?
Yeah.
Just for a minute? I'd like to make everybody aware that the senior center is having a silent auction fundraiser next Friday, and we will be open late next week. We've got about 250 items, lots and lots of local attractions, lots of things that you just can't live without. So come up and support the seniors. This is part of what we have to do to survive. The senior center is receiving less money today than we did 10 years ago when Rice started. So I thank you all for your support, and we do work hard to try to make that happen.
I'd like to thank you for your help. I seen seniors up there before with their families going and stuff like that, and they're by themselves now, and, what you do is a really good service, sir.
It's a need in this area.
It is.
And we provide a need as well. Thank you all for your support, and
What time will that auction end that day?
the
Because
auction will end on Friday at 12 noon. The bidding stops on Friday. at
Friday, 12 noon.
But everything is out, so where if you're working out, the bid sheets are out, so come up and, you'll be surprised with what you see.
If you all have never been to that before, I know I remember asking Sue last year about it. I was like, when's that happening again? When's that happening again? Because I know I spent a little bit of money up there with you, but came out of there with some really nice stuff because you all have some amazing stuff from,
Some wonderful things.
well, good. All right, everybody go up there and spend some money with our seniors.
Look at it this way, you're gonna be spending the money at eateries and places to go and do things. Look at it this way, you're just giving the money to the seniors. You're gonna be doing it anyway.
There you go.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody else have anything? Everybody, hope everybody have a great